Yo, that's right, baby. Oh, twice in one go. Call of the Night. Call of the Night is one of those animes that kind of just hit at a really good time. I've been an insomniac for most of my life, and I tend to stick around later than I usually should. So it's easy for me to understand that there could be a universe out there that holds all these people who are like spontaneous, different, a little bit unique, since they're left to their own devices during the midnight witching hour. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this one really got me, man. I've even from the first season, it's just a really interesting take on putting this adolescent young man at that age of everything is happening. There's a lot of things popping off behind you, and you just kind of take that in stride. You're trying to learn what's going on, and to have this dude kind of be at a point where he's sort of coming to terms with what this universe is and what it holds and what that means for him in terms of becoming the person he wants to be, or just becoming that version of him that he wants to be. And that is when he meets the midnight vampire girl, and it becomes a tale as old as time. Kid meets pixie dream girl, and we go from there. However, there are a few caveats. More than one, vampires. That's right, it's not just the Call of the Wild, it is the Call of the Wild. And in this universe, we have vampires, or what we perceive as vampires, because while we do see a lot of fantastical elements, people jumping off walls and stuff, hardcore parkour, there's a part of me that really just takes pleasure in stripping away all that supernatural element and trying to get to the bottom of what is being said. And yes, that sounds very unenjoyable, but when you have interesting characters, creative writing, a very good plot, and just leads that carry the show, so much emotion between the two of them, this really does what it needs to do. And with good ambition, I might add, because not only did this come out at the same time that Dangers of My Heart was airing, I believe, but it did stand on its own. It had its vibe going. They added Creepy Nuts, that is that band that everybody likes. Yes, I too am a nutty man, but it has been very nice to see how that band has been kind of growing, and that's pretty much due to Sony giving them that green light and that funding to do all those projects and events. But it's still nice to see how well they play together. Yes, even from the opening animation, you see this kind of like this melding of AMV. It really does feel like someone took that animation and slapped a AMV music video, and that was professionally done, and it's really fucking good. So right off the bat, you get points for like style and just how much it presents itself, and how really fascinating this world can be at times. We've talked about the supernatural, we talked about the vampires, and we need to talk about the exposition, because there's lots of scenes where, since we're stuck in the midnight hour and there's lights blaring in the background, you see that chromatic aberration really shine through in the way that the designers animate and present these lights. And it really adds to the aspect of this is almost like a completely different universe, one where lights shine, but what happens in the darkness sticks. Vroom, vroom. So, question becomes, after one whole season, what are we doing here? And thankfully, I've been waiting for this moment. I did want to try to do episodes reviews, but when it comes to animes like this, I need to know kind of where we're at in the bigger picture. While I do enjoy Panting and Stalking episode 1, it really doesn't. It just felt like another like fancy stocking. Like, okay, cool, we get it. But for this, something like this, I give it more credit, and I see that we're going in a certain direction. That being said, we do have threats, because there is one Anko Ugu Isu, Anko, and that is our main antagonist. We had a small taste of her in the first season. She already touched base with our main character, Ko, but in this season, it seems like this chick is very hell-bent on doing her job, which is apparently detective work. And that's where I step in, because you know how much I like detectives. I do intermingle with the creative minds, but there's some people out there that need Jesus. Unfortunately, this lady believes that she might be the next Jesus, because I share little lighter kind of gives her hope or whatever, but she is really out here on the mission to go kill vampires. Someone told her that she is part of the Simon Belmont clan, and now she is out there vampire killing like it was no tomorrow, because this poor woman runs up to a newly turned vampire. I forgot his name already, I apologize. But we met him in the last episode, and we got to touch base with him more in this one. So we see kind of the character development coming from the people around Ko and his new friends, and we see the consequences of what it means to hang out in this circle, quote unquote. Because this girl dashes in and just goes to town with one of oh no. Goes to town with one of these, and she goes, and there's no bueno. But she does that because he's a vampire. And to dismay of many people, to show just how serious she is doing this in front of a group of vampires. So the question becomes, where is that line? What are we doing here? Are these vampires gonna cross over that line and be like, yo dog, they're killing our homies, we gotta step in? Is kind of where we're leading towards. Whether how far they take it and like how much of a battle this ends up being, because this isn't really a shonen, this isn't really like, at least from what I understand, it's not necessarily the superhero action-packed special, but I can see something coming out of all this. Because again, from the beginning, we see these vampires do feats of amazement, but it's empty can. But if you really kind of look into it, you can always just look deep, right? And rather than focusing on all the super demi-powered like abilities, you can kind of, if you choose to focus on the emotional value or the emotions that are coming from these characters in those moments, one could say they're in a euphoric state where they feel that empowered. So again, there's a lot of things happening here that, me being the skeptic detective guy that I am, I'm just like, well, what's wrong if these interesting midnight people are just having a good old time and playing vampire with each other? And there's a question, because from what we know, these people who turn into vampires tend to lose their memories. What does that mean, and how does that affect them, is something that we found out today. Because not only did this poor lady shank the dude multiple times, but apparently she pulled out his old glasses, because in the last episode he mentions, yeah, they're fake glasses. Like, once I became a vampire, my eyesight improved, but I couldn't get used to not wearing glasses, so I bought these hollowed out glasses. To which this crazy lady is wearing. And in the uh, right before stabbing the poor dude, she takes his old glasses from her face and puts them on his face, and that causes this guy to go like into a state of shock. And that was the moment that it kind of clicked in my brain, because when they say that these vampires are reborn as vampires and they start to forget about their past, it doesn't have to mean that they necessarily are doing anything supernatural. It could very well be that these characters all have traumatic pasts that they would rather not discuss, maybe talk about, and are comfortable with the idea of playing this make-believe universe where they're all okay because they have each other, right? Because they are a clan, the vampire clan. So it's pretty damn cool. I think we're going too deep with this on my corner, but again, this is what I do, baby. It's what I specialize in. And seeing how Nazuka has a very hard time like trying to delve into her past does remind me of an ex-girlfriend, or sorry, like a oh whatever, like a person who is still learning to like rebuild themselves after a big canon event. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Uh, well, and that's fine. I think it's good to kind of have those moments of reflection and to go for that. But there does have to be a point where you come to terms with it, whether it be talking about it, accepting it, letting it go, and I mean like a legitimate like, okay, well, there's nothing that can be done, so I hereby refuse to let this thing decide my actions any further. It is an irrelevant cause, and we move on. And we're gonna have to see that. I feel like there's still a lot of, obviously there's a lot of history that she's not able to remember, but there's still a lot of things that needs to be talked about. And this chick is pretty interested about it, because we're thinking that she apparently only can remember like the first moments of her waking up in that apartment, and that has been her whole life ever since she became a vampire. So for her, it's more of a like a new starting point. She's told us a story about how when she first came to Kyoto, for the first time, she came by herself because she was excited and she wanted to find something. And I do believe that story is going to be touched on again. However, how far we get into it and how honest we are with each other is going to be the interesting part of it for me, at least. And like I said, this isn't necessarily a shonen anime battle action series with vampires. It is a personal, or it is a communicative event featuring vampires. For those of us that don't know, this is the same creator as the person who wrote Dagashi Kashi, which is another anime that aired out during the Funimation era. But you can see just the how each character has a unique spirit, and how they all bring something to the table. And while it's not always what you're expecting or what you're looking for, you learn to kind of value it because it is a part of your family or the group that we've decided to build together. So that's fun. Where we get there, where we go, we get the final moments of deciding that yes, we need to find out about history, because if we do not find out about history, then that detective lady is going to find out about history, and she will use history to stab you in the gut. So how that goes, how that works. Hospital trip. Yes. It's there. It's interesting. Midnight workers, late night hours, registered nurses. That's all you need to know. We meet the vampire. We meet the final vampire. A person that Nazuka knows, but not somebody that, let's say, is quite the friendliest. And to realize that this person is a registered nurse who works nursing hours. Oh yeah, is that one girl that was working? Yeah, okay. Nursing hours, it says things. Says things. Let me just say that I've heard a lot of, I've know registered nurse people, and I've heard registered nurse stories. And that's wild. So like, again, adding to the whole idea that these group of people are just either very traumatized or just very like people who experienced a lot. There's a scene where like Nazuka and Ko are talking about the plan and like what's going on, and they get to the topic of how old is she, like trying to pressure her into kind of remember something, like anything that we can work with to save you or protect ourselves or go from there. And the whole idea of like her coming up with the idea that she's 30 to 40 years old or whatever is a really interesting concept. Like again, we're coming to the point that like, yeah, maybe this could all be real. They could all be vampires and they're all doing supernatural abilities. And for the sake of things, I'm gonna say yes. That is exactly what is going on in this universe. However, for the sake of literature, masterment? No. I had a good word for that. Literature. Analysis? For the sake of a literary analysis, let us say that all these emotions, all these things happening is really a lot of trauma. That these people who have gone through a lot of shit in their developmental years decided to veer away from normal society and ended up in this space, in this like lot space where people hang out. Some of them are adults, some of them are teenagers, but they all get to hang out in this safe space and they see each other as almost a familial unit, which is pretty damn cool. And if that happens in Tokyo, yeah, who knows? Maybe there is stuff out there in Tokyo. I do believe LA gets crazy. There's a bit of times I get down over there, but you know, different rules, different universes. And it's not until the very end where we finally get Ko to stand up to the new vampire friend, who is kind of playing it cool, right? We've understood that in Nasuka's apartment there was a wallet that had an ID for a patient in this specific hospital, and while this chick kind of has a mini reaction, she completely shrugs it off, like if it has nothing to do with her. So our good man Ko, the goat, turns around and asks her to be straight up honest. But of course, nothing's ever easy with these vampires, because just like our friend ran up to stab someone else in the stomach, this vampire lady gives him the look and says she'll do it, but under one condition. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we end episode 3. I like this show a lot. I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm not really looking for solo leveling. I'm not really, I like Demon Slayer, like I do like Demon Slayer, but I think I'm more impressed by how nice the animation looks rather than like, oh, this fight is happening or whatever. And maybe that's just an anime thing. Maybe like we've got to a point where unless it's real physics, like fighting doesn't really get me as exciting because it's all magic, smoke and mirrors. But be able to come around and just have a chill time with shows like this is what makes me stick around. I would say I came into this medium, honestly, straight up, I came into this medium because I was trying to watch the Naruto versus Pain fight, and 15, almost 20 years later, shit, yeah, about 15 years, almost 15 years, 10 years later, about 10 years later, we're out here and like everything has just changed and grown. But the shows that are really still grounded, the shows that really kind of present like serious topics, but without making it too cartoonish, if there's any way to present that, or without too cartoonish, whether that means without being super gory or being like fake and like almost not being taken seriously. And yeah, just to see the beautiful scenes in this, right? The character designs are awesome. I do really like a lot of the characters, but their personalities also stick out, and you get to a point where you understand that these people are who they are, and that's either going to be a problem down the line, or you're going to learn to respect them. Because I didn't really vibe with the glasses dude that got shanked today in this episode, but there was a scene with him and the girl that turned him into a vampire, who was kind of a cute, what's her face? Delinquent girl. She has blonde hair. What are they called? What do we call the girls that are like delinquents in high school? Anyways, she's cool. Oh, the gals. She has that gal look to her. She has the blonde. She has a blonded hair and she has a sweater, and she's nice. And she's there talking to the dude, holding the same glasses that Miss Detective used to paralyze him. And it makes sense, again, coming back to the idea that the reason these vampires don't remember their past could simply be the fact that when you remember who you used to be, think about it, 10 years ago, how cringe were you? Are you proud of the person that you used to be? And if you were forced to look at that person in the mirror, would you be able to accept that? Or would you have to turn away in disgust and be disgusted by who that creature was? And that's kind of deep, man. And that's kind of interesting, because if we use that same logic and apply it to vampires, then we get an interesting scenario here. This detective girl, who is going way past the law and out of bounds of what should be niceties, is trying to prevent more messed up humans to be created. Spawn of the devil, they say. And that's an interesting take. Granted, she's clearly off her rocker and she needs some medical attention or something. But there is someone out there who is trying to stop all the demonic shit happening, right? On the surface level. And then we focus in on the demonic shit that is happening. And these characters are just like, yo, man, we're just trying to escape our trauma, and we met some friends, and now there's this one girl who's out here shaking all of us down, and now we're like, bruh, what's up? So that is the state of things in Call of the Night. A cute little moment where the glasses guy and the girl are on the roof. They're just talking about who we used to be. Do you remember the times? Do you remember how we met? Do you remember what you did? You low-key saved my life, blah, 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 blah. You gave me a reason to live, all that shit. And it gets to the point of like, well, I won't remember that memory. If I was human then and you turned me, and then if I am this person now, then I will no longer remember those memories as a human. To which our friend the gal, which is probably best girl in high school. I don't know. We'll get to it. Goes in general, because they always make the gal character to be like the nicest, like most emotionally developed person in the group. So it convinced me skewed. She tells them, well, don't worry about it, because we're here now, and that means that we can make brand new memories together. And to that, Call of the Wild. I see you. I see you, fam. So, with that being said, Call of the Wild, Season 2, Episode 3. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think. I love this series. I hope it keeps this momentum. We keep on talking about how anime keeps on fucking up like the vibe of the source material, and I'm not sure if they're doing something creative for this one, but for what it feels like, there seems to be a good solid building of tension, stakes, and objectives, like what we need to do to get ahead of the curve, and if we get there, then we can like move forward with the interactions. And that's going to be interesting to see, because again, more than anything, this is a interpersonal like show about characters and their relationships, and that is going to be interesting to see how it develops and what these people become, either together or at the time that they have to separate, which is going to be cool. And for the most part, I enjoy it. It is almost like a character study, and I guess that is what brings me interest in the year of 2025. But hey, let me know what you think. Call of the Night? Are you watching it? Is it cool? Would you become the vampire? Let us know. But until then, it's been your boy, EXP626 Stitch, wishing you a buenas noches, buenos dias, and awesome mañana. Ya. Mátane.